As the year is closing, I was this close to hitting my reading goal. I think I got 89 out of my 100. So better luck next year. Out of all the 89 books that I have read this year, I'm going to be telling you guys my 25 favorites of 2025. I tried a whole bunch of new genres and a lot of new books this year, and I honestly was pleasantly surprised. It's honestly crazy to me how much reading taste can change over the years. So I'm really excited to share with you guys my 25 favorite books of 2025.
It is actually chaos. Like, the amount of books that are on my floor right now, like, my shelves are destroyed. These are the books that I read this year, but I didn't include in the top 25. But just looking at them all together is honestly insane to me.
I think about 12 of these books I gave 5 stars, which is actually kind of crazy. I think I rate books really strictly when it comes to giving books 5 stars, but in the summer, I got one of the biggest reading slumps I've had. And once I found that one book that got me out of the reading slump, everything kind of unraveled, and I found so many amazing 5 stars and so many great recommendations. So I'm so excited to share them with you. Starting at 25, we have Butcher and Blackbird. This is the first book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I read it back in March and I gave it about 3.25 stars. I liked this one more than the other two books in the trilogy. And I thought it was like such a unique storyline, and it was so insane to kind of watch it unravel along with like the scavenger hunts that the two main characters went on. And I thought it was such a cute, kind of gross, but also a super fun story. So this is definitely number 25 for the year, which seems so low being at the lowest of this 25 lineup, but compared to the 89 books that I read this year, it's surprising how high this one is though. At 24, we have Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her debut YA novel. And this is extremely different from all the books she's wrote. She usually specializes in STEM romances, and I just thought, even though this was so different, it was so cute and such a good story. This book follows Mallory, who gets back into playing chess after taking a long break after family issues. She's trying to stay away from the game, but it will not stay away from her, and it is just super good. It is so short and sweet, and for her first YA novel, I think she did such a great job. Alright, and following that, we have Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is the second book in the When in Rome series, and I have grown to love it so much, and I'm so excited to read the final one. This book is about Annie and Will, and I think it is just so perfect. This is a small town romance book, grumpy sunshine trope, and just the whole series is just so great, and I highly recommend if you haven't read it already. Next up is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is actually the first Frida McFadden book I've ever read, and I really, really love it. Because the movie was coming out so soon, I felt really inclined to begin this book, and it did not let me down, and I've grown to just read so many more books by her, and I've grown to really, really, really love like the thriller genre. So I'm so glad I read this. We follow Millie, who is the housemaid for the Winchesters, but a lot of things come unexpected and honestly changed Millie's life. Alright, at number 21, we have Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This is the fourth and final book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I read Done and Dusted, which is the first book, last year, and I was never convinced to pick up the second one until last month. And as soon as I did, it got me out of my reading slump, and genuinely, I just kept reading the whole series because it was so good. Like, I forgot how good this was. And this one definitely stood out to me the most. I absolutely loved our main characters, Cam and Dusty. They were so human, so relatable, and their storyline was just everything that I needed from this book. It was the perfect conclusion to the series, and I definitely recommend this series. Alright, at number 20, we have A False Start by Elsie Silver. This is the fourth and final book to the Gold Rush Ranch series, which I just finished. I did not like the first two books as much as the last two, and this book really shocked me. I loved this book simply because it felt so human. Our two main characters, Nadia and Griffin, were facing a lot of human challenges that their vulnerability and the character that we see in this book made this the perfect read. The thing that I love most about Elsie Silver's writing is the fact that she's not afraid to tackle difficult subjects, and I think that only makes her books stronger. So I absolutely loved this book, and I cannot wait to see what she releases next. On number 19 we have Nora Goes Off script by Annabelle Monaghan. I loved this book. It was super short and sweet. It is just under 300 pages and this did not let me down. Following Nora not only as a single mom but also a screenwriter who is working through this movie about her own life, it just felt like I truly understood and knew the characters, and that only grew my bond towards them even stronger. I thought it was told in such a beautiful way. I think this book was the pivoting point to where I added the rest of her books onto my TBR, and I'm so excited to get to them. Unfortunately, I didn't get to them this year, but hopefully next year those will be super high up. Next is Wild Card. This is the fourth book in the Rose Hill series. In this book, we meet Gwen and Bash. Bash is a Rose Hill local and also a pilot, and Gwen is new to town. I highly recommend the Rose Hill series if you haven't read it already. It is just so amazing. Anything Elsie Silver writes, I'm just absolutely in love with. Next up is Summer in the City by Alex Astor. Being her first romance novel, I thought it was absolutely insane how great of a job she did. I have never read the Lightlark series, however that is a series I'm looking to get into for 2026. And something so cool about this book that I truly loved was the map that she placed on the inside of New York City. You rarely see this in romance books, it's more like fantasy, so I thought that was so unique and super cute. I'm someone who really loves New York City, so having a book set there just really warms my heart, and it definitely gets an extra star in my eyes. We're taking through the perspective of Elle, who is a screenwriter who has major writer's block, so she moves out to New York City where the film is supposed to be taking place, and she travels to all these different locations trying to get some inspiration, and it is super amazing, super sweet, and I definitely recommend this. Next up we have Taming Seven by Chloe Walsh. This is the fifth book in the Boys of Tommen series. Although this book was really short, I believe that's why it's probably not one of my favorites, just because of the length compared to all the other books we gotta read. I would have loved to hear so much more about Gibbsy and Claire. They are honestly my favorite couple, so having such a short book for them really sucked, but hopefully we get to see more in the future. And following that is Releasing 10. This is the sixth book in the latest release in the Boys of Tommen series following Lizzie and Huey. This book really changed my opinion on Lizzie. Although she's still not my favorite character, I've grown to understand and empathize with her more. And this is just going through Lizzie's mind as she is battling mental illness, and it is just such an amazing story. And anything in this series, I'm just automatically in love with. Next, we got Picking Daisies on Sundays by Liana Sincati. This book is super short and sweet and just so amazing. I read this in literally one sitting, and it was the perfect palate cleanser for so many fantasy books that I ended up reading this year. This follows Daisy and Levi, who are childhood best friends. They end up splitting ways for 4 years and then find each other again, and they end up in a fake dating situation. And I just think the tension is so high and the chemistry is just so amazing. And this book is definitely one of my favorites this year. At number 13, we have Powerless by Elsie Silver. We are getting into the middle of the Elsie Silver Chestnut Strings series, which is definitely the best series of hers in my opinion. Even though Jasper is not a cowboy, he was definitely one of my favorite. Jasper and Salone's story was honestly, I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely did not expect this. We have childhood friendship and just an absolute longing that I adore from this book. Elsie Silver is literally the queen of writing romance books, because if she releases anything, I genuinely don't think I've given a book by her less than 4 stars. I definitely want to reread this one soon. It was so cute, and what is better than a hockey player and a ballet dancer? Like, that is just so adorable. Number 12, we have The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I was super intimidated to get into this book, however, we decided to read it for our book club, and it turned out to be one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I usually am not a lover of just general fiction, literary fiction books, however, this is the exception to that rule. Kat and Heath's story was very aggravating to me. It was very human and raw and just showed a lot of vulnerability. Being able to display so much raw emotion is what really had me loving the story and feeling so emotionally connected to it. I was actually telling my friends, like, the reason why I love this book so much is because I didn't like it. Like, it made me feel some sort of way. Like, I genuinely felt emotional towards this book. And at the end of the book, I'm just gonna say I hated the ending. I hated it, and that's why I love this book, because it's just so human. Not every story can end on perfect terms, and this is just such a great representation of it. And it was just honestly the perfect book that I needed to read, and I cannot wait to find more books like this. Number 11, we have Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is my favorite Elsie Silver book ever. I did not like Winter at all, but as soon as I got this book, she instantly became my favorite character. We have Bull Rider Theo Silva and we have Dr. Winter Hamilton. They end up having a one-night stand which results in an unexpected pregnancy, which I usually don't love that trope. However, this was done so perfectly that I genuinely could not put it down. The thing that I loved most about this book is how much of a man Theo was. Like, as soon as he found out, he literally was there in every way possible for Winter, which is what I love to see in a book. This was absolutely adorable, and I honestly want to reread this again just because of how amazing it was. Alright, next we got Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This was one of the first mystery thriller books that I've ever read, and it did not let me down. I think I listened to this on audiobook, and I absolutely love how the story was told through there. There were so many fun and interesting elements in this story. The most interesting part about this book is the fact that one of the main characters has face blindness, so he can never really see anybody. And that just makes the story a whole lot more crazy. And just the ending was the most unexpected thing ever, and this literally lives rent-free in my head every day. Alright, then we have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I cannot wait for the movie to come out. I have been waiting for it every single day now. I read this fall and it did not let me down at all. We follow a third-year PhD student Olive and Professor Adam, who end up in a fake dating situation, and it honestly is the most bizarre thing ever, but in the best way possible, and I absolutely love this book. I got this cute special edition and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Even insides has this cute artwork. It's just so adorable. This is definitely one of my favorite books by Ali Hazelwood, and I cannot wait to keep reading all of her work. Next we have Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This is the final book in the Powerless series. I absolutely love this book so much. I reread this whole series just for this one to come out, and it did not let me down. I must say I still love Kit. However, I did love the ending of this book, and I thought it was the perfect way to tie off the series. Next we have Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. This is the final book in the Throne of Glass series. Although I was really ready for this series to come to an end, I was sad to see it go and know that I couldn't read it again for the first time. Finally being able to close off the series and understand all the characters was really heartwarming, and I'm so glad I read this when I did. If you haven't read Throne of Glass yet, I highly recommend it. It is definitely one of my favorite fantasy series. Do not be intimidated by the length. It is so amazing and you will not regret reading it. Alright, then we got Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I finally caved and read it. I've been putting this book off for so long. I literally purchased it when it came out, but I thought it was so overhyped online that I just never read it until now, and I finally understand the deserved hype. Is one of my favorite fantasy books now. Although the next two books weren't as great, I really hope the next release is just as amazing as this one. We're following Violet Soaringale in this book as she takes on the Rider Quadrant. We meet so many amazing people, and just the character development between this book and the future ones are just so amazing, and I absolutely loved it. At number 5, we have Good Spirits by B.K. Borson. This is my first B.K. book, and she did not let me down. This follows Harriet and Nolan. Nolan is actually the ghost of Christmas Past, and he is actually haunting Harriet, and they're trying to figure out why she's being haunted, why he was sent to her. And it's just such a beautiful Christmas love story, and such an absolutely stunning cover. Like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect read for Christmas if you're looking for any Christmas recommendations. Number 4 is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. I heard so many great things about this, so I had to go pick it up and read it. I love reading not only about Eli and Georgia's past, but also their present. Georgia and Eli are childhood friends to lovers, and then they split up and they are having to plan their best friend's wedding together. This book is so fun and fast-paced and enjoyable, and it literally had me kicking dragging my feet. It was so cute. This is one of my favorite romance books of the years, and I recommend this to anyone looking for a good new romance to read. Alright, at number 3, we have Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is her newest release and honestly my favorite book by her yet. This book follows Alice and Hayden as they are both writers and competing to write the same biography for this woman that nobody has seen in years. It is so interesting, and there's a lot of historical fiction elements within this book that just make it even sweeter. Margaret gives both Alice and Hayden 1 month until she decides who's going to write her biography, and we learn a lot about Margaret's past, her family's history, and just a lot of shocking and deep information that I did not expect from an Emily Henry book, but it served just so amazingly, and I love it so much. I usually don't really love historical fiction, however, this book really brought me out of my comfort zone and showed me I really should branch out more because it is something I truly love. Alright, and at number 2, we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Iris recommended this book so many times, so I finally had to pick it up, and it did not let me down. This book combines elements of historical fiction as well as fantasy, and it was just so interesting. I don't think I've read a book with these kind of elements in it before, and it honestly shocked me how much I loved it. This book is set in France in 1714. We follow Addie, who asks this dangerous god for one thing, and that is for a chance to live. And once she receives that, it is not as she expects because she lives on for over 300 years and nobody can remember her. One day, Addie ends up walking into this bookstore, and one person, after hundreds of years, finally remembers her. It just leads to the most incredible and heartwarming story. This is definitely one I want to reread in 2026. I am definitely looking forward to read more of VE's work, and if you're looking to get into historical fiction, this is also a great starting point as well. Alright, and for my number 1 book this year is literally a book that I read a week ago, which is so surprising, but it is Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. This is a literary fiction book following 14-year-old Mary Jane in the 1970s. Mary Jane was raised in a very traditional way, and she goes to nanny for this family who is very out of the ordinary. She's caught up in 2 different lifestyles and kind of learns so much about herself and the life around her that she's never really been exposed to before. This book has a lot of character growth. This book has a lot of character growth and development and a lot of vulnerability that makes it truly relatable and just such a heartwarming story. Alright, those were my 25 favorite books of 2025. I hope if you read any of them, you like them as well. And I'm definitely looking forward to add on to my 2026 TBR and hope I find as many amazing books next year as I did this year. If you have read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them as well. And I will see you next time.